I sent a notice around because I have found this full, so rich, 5 passages, 5 chapters of Genesis, and if we were to do the whole lot, we'd be here till tomorrow probably. So it's been quite hard because it is so rich to try and work out what to say and what to leave out. So I really hope that you have read it yourselves, I'm sure you have, and maybe reread it again, after this, because I'm sure the Lord will speak to each of you. This is what his word's about, isn't it? Speaking to each one of us. So it's based on Genesis 5 to 9. But we're going to probably focus just on 2 chapters, and which are 6 and 7. And because of that, before we start looking at the actual word, I wanted to do a summary for, what we've been learning so far. This is our 3rd week of going through Genesis, and we've been looking at how God created the world, and that is so important because he planned such an amazing and perfect place that is so delicate, so intricate, so awesome, the way it runs and continues to blow our minds when we discover something new about his creation. And he put so much love into it. And he put you and me, humankind, into it because he loved people and he wanted a relationship with them. So he's done all of that. That's our background. And then we find out that through one small, probably very quick error, Eve disobeyed. Eve is the first one to disobey God, and then Adam quickly follows. And there are consequences to that. There are always consequences if we choose not to follow God's best for us. And that continues all the way through. There are always consequences. And as far as Adam and Eve are concerned, they had to be banished from the garden. But God, in his love, he always finds a way through. And what he did, he made them animal skins and he provided for them. And that was when the first death, first meat began to be on the scene. So that's a bit of the background. And then we find that as the time progresses onwards and the generations go through, there are more times when people begin to fall away from God. They begin to do what he doesn't want them to do, and the depravity, the violence gets worse. And we read in Genesis 5 about people who it's a precursor to where maybe sexual sin comes in. And, there's people taking the females and making love with them. So this is all happening before I'm beginning to speak to you now. And I wanted to call this God and his creation story, because this creation of God is so precious to him, so marvelous to him. We still enjoy his creation. The wickedness of mankind, the flood, and Noah. Yeah. So we're going to start from Genesis 6. When human beings began to increase in number on the earth, and daughters were born to them, the sons of God saw that the daughters of humans were beautiful, and they married them, any of them they chose. Then the Lord said, "My spirit will not dwell with humans, will not contend with humans forever, for they are mortal, and their days will be 120 years." The Nephilim were on the earth in those days, and also afterward, when the sons of God went to the daughters of humans and had children by them. They were the heroes of old, men of renown. The Lord saw how great the wickedness of the human race had become on earth, and that every inclination of the thoughts of the human heart was only evil all the time. The Lord regretted that he had made human beings on the earth, and his heart was deeply troubled. So the Lord said, I will wipe from the face of the earth the human race I've created, and with them the animals, the birds, the creatures that move along the ground, for I regret that I have made them. But Noah found favor in the eyes of the Lord. So before we carry on, I just wanted to, I don't know if you can see it there, sort of bolded it. The Lord regretted that he had made human beings. He regretted it. He was sorry that he'd made them. And Rob alluded to it last week. How awful when he had such amazing plans and then he regrets it. Sometimes people are a bit concerned about attributing human emotions to God. But we do it because we say that he loves us. So if you're not happy with the idea of him regretting, then you can't be happy with the idea of him loving. So I would say it's perfectly valid that God, our loving Father, would feel regret that he had made humans. And then it goes on to say that his heart was deeply troubled. In some translations, different translations, this is how they translate it, that he was pained, that he was heartbroken, that his heart was filled with pain, that it broke his heart. This is how God felt when he saw the creation that he had painstakingly designed and created going wrong. I'll touch back on that in a while. Just carrying on. Because then obviously, like I said, if we do things wrong, there is a consequence. Here comes part of the consequence. Noah and the flood. This is the account of Noah and his family. Noah was a righteous man, blameless among the people of his time, and he walked faithfully with God. Noah had 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Now the earth was corrupt in God's sight and was full of violence. God saw how corrupt the earth had become, for all the people on earth had corrupted their ways. So God said to Noah, I am going to put an end to all the people, for the earth is filled with violence because of them. I am surely going to destroy them and the earth. So make yourself an ark of cypress wood. Make rooms in it and coat it with pitch inside and out. This is how you are to build it. The ark is to be 300 cubits long, 50 cubits wide, and 30 cubits high. Make a roof for it, leaving below the roof an opening 1 cubit high all around. Put a door in the side of the ark and make lower, middle, and upper decks. I am going to bring flood waters on the earth to destroy all life under the heavens. Every creature that has breath of life in it, everything on earth will perish. But I will establish with you my covenant, and you will enter the ark, you and your sons and your wife, your sons' wives with you. You are to bring into the ark 2 kinds of all living creatures, male and female, to keep them alive with you. 2 of every kind of bird, of every kind of animal, and of every kind of creature that moves along the ground will come to you and be kept alive. You are to take every kind of food that is to be eaten and store it away as food for you and them. Noah did everything just as the Lord commanded him. So Noah is going to put an end to all people for all the violence caused. Violence is an interesting word. What does it? What can we count as violence? There is violence today. Verbal violence, mental violence. The best way I can think of what man does to creation is raping it. Getting everything we possibly can out of creation. Unnecessarily killing of animals. Deforestation, I can go on. Interestingly, the word Hamas means violence or wrongdoing. It's the primary term for human violence, almost always used to identify physical violence. So this is what God was seeing on the increase. And he's going to put an end to it, because he has to, because this is not how he designed his world to be. So if we go on to the next slide. God saw that human evil was out of control. This is from the Message. People thought evil, imagined evil, evil, from morning to night. God was sorry that he had made the human race in the first place. It broke his heart. God said, I'll get rid of my ruined creation and make a clean sweep. People, animals, snakes and bugs, birds, the works. I'm sorry I made them. And then if you click on Jemima, this is sort of light-hearted, and obviously this boy isn't God. But have you ever seen a child who has spent ages making something, or painting something, or writing something, and then they rip it up? It's really sad, isn't it? And just think how much, this is how I feel God was ripping up the creation that he'd made because it had gone wrong. And compare this is how he looks at his creation. That's what he's seeing. Compare what he saw in the first place. If you click on again. And God saw everything that he had made, and behold, it was very good. And there was evening and there was morning, the sixth day. That's how God saw his creation. With the humans, it was very good. So things have changed, and he's going to destroy it. And I wonder what might be breaking God's heart today. If we think about humans, we are made in his image. Humanity is made in God's image. We read that. So I wonder, when he looks at humans and he sees how some of them are being treated. We've already sort of mentioned abuse of creation. What about abuse of people, oppression of people? So we have a God whose heart breaks, a God who weeps when he sees stuff going on. When we see people suffering, God weeps when he sees it. He's grieved. That's the God we have. If you love someone, you're going to weep when you see them in a difficult circumstance. And he calls us to be the same when we see hard things. Anyway, Then we come to Noah. Because God's going to wipe out the whole of creation, right? Because everyone is evil and violent in his sight. And then we come to Noah. Noah is the 10th generation. I don't know if you want to know that, but he is the 10th generation after Adam. I counted it twice. Sometimes the Bible misses out, in some parts of it, they might not list every single person, but I'm fairly sure this is right. Do go back and let me know if I miscounted, but I think it's the 10th generation. And the first thing we read about about Noah, is he walked faithfully with the Lord. I just love that expression. Noah walked faithfully with the Lord. What does that mean? When I go walking, I go to appreciate what I see. Maybe I go with someone and have a heart-to-heart, don't we, Jemima? Have a heart-to-heart about what's bothering us. We listen to each other. We might plan and set aside time to be with that person. It involves the idea of relationship and intimacy, often. And we will often go just with one person to walk. And sometimes you walk and you're in silence. So Noah walked faithfully with the Lord. The first time you hear about walking with is in creation. God walked in the garden. So we assume he walked with Adam and Eve in the garden. So God's plan was for us, I think, to walk with him. And the word walk is translated as halak, which means to go, to walk, to accompany, to continue with. And it does have an idea of intimacy in it. Enoch was the first person who the next person who was described was walking faithfully with God. He walked with God all of his life, and he had the shortest life in those days. He only lived for 369. Well, we know he walked with God for 369 days, and then he was taken. He was still walking with the Lord. So I think the Lord wants us to walk with him, to take our steps with him, to listen to him in the ins and outs of life. The next thing we know about Noah was that it says he found favor, or some translations are grace, in the eyes of God. A commentator who I was reading, the one who Rob also, his name is John Goldingay, he says a better way of thinking of grace is that grace found Noah. Because we cannot do anything to earn God's grace or to earn God's favor. We can't do anything for it. So God was planning to destroy the whole world, but then he was gracious towards Noah. Noah was just a human, probably didn't deserve it, but grace found Noah. However, Noah was a righteous man. He was righteous before God. And his lifestyle conveyed fairness, justice, and integrity. That's the way he lived his life. So God chose to use Noah, chose to save Noah amongst all the people from this desecration. Another thing we know about Noah was he did what God said. He was obedient. Noah built the ark. And I don't know about you, but recently I only just thought, well, actually, how long do you think it took to make that ark? It says, it's one little bit, it says, Noah did what God said, right? How long did it take him to make the ark? There are some traditions that say 125 years, but if you look and do the maths, so I did research this in the end, and you look at the age of his sons when it says one of them was 100 when he had his first son. So anyway, the maths shows it was only 75, probably. Imagine taking 75 years to do the thing that God had said. Imagine that. And I'm jumping a bit forward here, but everyone else is looking at him going, duh, what is that guy doing? Because God didn't tell anyone else to make the ark, just Noah. So he spends 75 years making this ark. Now, bearing in mind he lived for 800 odd years anyway, that was a fraction of his life, but it was still 75 years. So God told him to do something. I reckon he was obedient. He carried on, he persevered, he was faithful. I wonder what God said to him while he was building that ark. I think he might have, yeah. They must have had some amazing conversations, I would guess. So let that be an encouragement to you, is what I'd say. You know, if God's asked you to do something, and I reckon the only encouragement he got was his walk with God, say the only, that is where he got his whole encouragement to carry on doing what God told him to do when everyone else had been mocking him for 70 years. That crazy guy, what is he doing? He just carried on. And he built the ark. And it's only one line in the Bible. Noah did what God said. Imagine I guess it would be quite good if that was on my epitaph. Sally did what God said. But anyway, it took him 75 years, and then it carried on later. So here's a little picture of the ark. I think some of you have been to see the mock-up of it, the model of it. I'd love to go and see the model of the ark. Lots of speculation on it. Again, this guy, John Goldingay, and quite a few other people, and if you look at the word for ark, it's more accurately translated as box or chest. And the same word is used for the basket that Moses was put in. It was a box. And I like that because it conveys something special is inside it. And it was protected. It's protective. It contains something really special. And the other thing that is that word box or chest is used for is the Ark of the Covenant that was carried around in this box or chest. And this was going to contain Noah's family, the animals, and their food. And I still can't think of the exact word I mean for it, but it was like it contained the microcosm of God's creation. Everything else is going to be obliterated, but inside this box is everything that God is going to use to regenerate his creation. A pair of each animal, pairs of people, the food to sustain them, and then 7 extras. 7 pairs of every clean animal and bird for eating and sacrifice, which we'll come on to later. So God was providing a way out. Okay, he was protecting and keeping safe the remnant that he'd chosen. So we come on to chapter 7 now. The Lord then said to Noah, "Go into the ark, you and your whole family, because I have found you righteous in this generation. Take with you 7 pairs of every kind of clean animal, a male and its mate, and 1 pair of every kind of unclean animal, a male and its mate. Also 7 pairs of every kind of bird, male and female, to keep their various kinds alive throughout the earth. 7 days from now I will send rain on the earth for 40 days and 40 nights, and I will wipe from the face of the earth every living creature I have made." And Noah did all that the Lord had commanded him. Noah was 600 years old when the flood waters came on the earth, and Noah and his sons and wife and his sons and wives entered the ark to escape the waters of the flood. Pairs of clean and unclean animals, of birds and all creatures that move along the ground, male and female, came to Noah and entered the ark, as God had commanded Noah. And after the 7 days, the flood waters came on the earth. In the 600th year of Noah's life, on the 17th day of the 2nd month, on that day, all the springs of the great deep burst forth, and the floodgates of the heavens were opened. And rain fell on the earth 40 days and 40 nights. So what caught me in this passage were these springs of the great deep bursting forth. And that's not usual, is it? Not a usual occurrence. Not only is it raining from the heavens, like we're used to seeing, something is happening underneath, and these springs are bursting out. You know, geology does show that there are layers of water in the core of the earth, and there sometimes, due to earthquakes, eruptions happen. But this reminds me of when the earth was created, because it says the earth was without form and void, darkness was over the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God was hovering over the face of the waters. And there was darkness upon the face of the primeval ocean that covered the unformed earth. And God was moving over the waters, and then we read that he separated it. So I get this picture. Maybe it's because I sometimes do a tiny bit of knitting. But it's like God has made his creation, and then he decides he's got to obliterate it. So he starts unpicking it. So, you know, everything gets obliterated. All the animals, all the people, the plants, I guess they regenerate with their own seeds. But it goes right back to this part where the floods were over the earth. It's like chaos. This formlessness, it's gone right back to that. The earth was formless. And interesting that Pete picked that up earlier, actually. Sometimes maybe our lives feel like that. Chaos. And this went on comparatively short, actually, 40 days and 40 nights. The flood went on. It took longer for it to dry and go away, but God allowed this to happen 40 days and 40 nights to do away with all the evil, the wrong, and the impurity. And what did God say? So if you go on to the next slide, what did God say when, when he created the world? He said, let the water under the sky be gathered to one place and let dry ground appear. So this time, when it was formless and dark, reminds me of another time when darkness covered the face of the earth. And this is when Jesus was on the cross. We read, darkness came over all the land from noon until 3 in the afternoon. This also signifies a judgment that's taking place. There was darkness covering the land. We know that Jesus was taking the punishment for all of our sin, all of us have ever done. So if we continue on to the next slide, please, Jemima. This is from Genesis 7:21 onwards. Every living thing that moved on land perished. Birds, livestock, wild animals, all the creatures that swarm over the earth, and all mankind. Everything on land, on dry land that had the breath of life in its nostrils died. Every living thing on the face of the earth was wiped out. People and animals and the creatures that move along the ground, and the birds were wiped from the face of the earth. Only Noah was left and those with him in the ark. The waters flooded the earth for 150 days. What that means is that it stopped, but then it took that amount of time for the waters to recede. But God remembered Noah and all the wild animals and the livestock that were with him in the ark, and he sent a wind over the earth, and the waters receded. And the springs of the deep and the floodgates of the heaven had been closed, and the rain stopped falling from the sky. So the breath of life from God breathing in the nostrils of Adam. We keep reading about this breath of life. And in Genesis 1 verse 2, God sent a wind, and the word for that is ruach. God sent a wind, and he sends a wind again now. Same word, ruach. It's his breath. And he breathed it on the earth, and it stopped. God had provided a way out for his remnant. And so God provides a way out for us. That was his son dying on a cross, because we know that Jesus came back to life, and he was raised to life, and that everybody who would have perished, like in that flood, everybody that would have perished, like he kept Noah safe, Jesus died that we can all also be safe for eternity, because he died in place of all of our sin. So the last thing I wanted to read to you was from Genesis 8, and it's from verse 15 to 22, because this is Noah's finishing act to the whole flood. And God said to Noah, "Come out of the ark, you and your wife and sons and their wives. Bring out every kind of living creature that is with you, the birds, the animals, all the creatures that move along the ground, so they can multiply on the earth and be fruitful and increase in number on it." So Noah came out together with his sons and his wife and his sons' wives. That all the animals and the creatures that move along the ground and all the birds, everything that moves on the land, came out of the ark one after the other. Then Noah built an altar to the Lord, and taking some of the clean animals and clean birds, he sacrificed burnt offerings on it. The Lord smelt the pleasing aroma and said in his heart, "Never again will I curse the ground because of humans, even though every inclination of the human heart is evil from childhood. And never again will I destroy all living creatures as I have done. As long as the earth endures, seed time and harvest, cold and heat, summer and winter, day and night will never cease." So this is the first time we read about someone building an altar and making a sacrifice. We don't know if the Lord had told Noah to do this. He certainly told him to take extra animals onto the ark, because if you'd only taken 2 and then he sacrificed, then it'd be like, duh. So, Lord had certainly told Noah to take extra animals, but he told him to take clean animals. They were the ones that were pure in God's sight. And Noah doesn't sacrifice half an animal and have it, and then have a feast, like some of the sacrifices, the burnt offerings were for. Noah sacrificed the whole animal to God, the whole lot. He chose to give the whole lot to the Lord. That was his act of worship and praise to God. And I guess my question is, how does God respond to that? It says, the aroma, let me just get to it. The Lord smelled the pleasing aroma. The Lord is pleased when we offer him our whole selves, our whole lives. When we don't keep something back, when we offer him everything, just in thanks and gratitude, not questioning why, not begrudgingly, just in faith. We just say, "There you go, Lord, I give it all to you." It's pleasing to the Lord. And then afterwards, he makes the promise and he says, "I'm never going to do this again." Even though every inclination of the human heart is still evil, right? Even though we still do mess up, we still do sin, the Lord has made that promise that he is never going to destroy all living creatures. And I'm not going to go on to the last bit of the Genesis 9, except to say he doesn't completely restore it back to how he did in creation. Because in creation, there was a harmony between the animals and the creatures, and God and mankind was asked to take care of the animals. And the animals would have responded in that way. But this time, God says, the fear and dread of you will fall on the animals. Because of the violence, they were going to be eating them, they were going to be sacrificing them. But anyway, God blesses humans and he says, "Be fruitful and increase in number and increase upon the earth." And he establishes the covenant and the rainbow. So Jemima, if you want to put that last one up, it's a photo of a rainbow. And just as so in my mind, when I was preparing this, the first picture is of that God going, wiping out his creation. Here he is, and he puts a rainbow up as a sign. And he says to remind myself that I'm never going to do this again. He makes this covenant. But do you know what? This covenant is not a deal. God didn't say, if you do this, this, and this, and this, I'll never wipe. He just said, I'm never going to do it again. And that's our Father, our God, how much he loves us. It's a one-sided deal. And every time we see the rainbow, we can remember God's goodness to us, that he's never going to wipe out or destroy humanity again by a flood. And we know that he's provided a way out for each one of us, don't we? This is the sign of the covenant I have established between me and all the life on earth. So I just want to highlight a few things that you might want to do as a response to this. And if there's other stuff that you feel that God's spoken to you or that you want prayer for, I'll urge you to do, to make that known or to do business with God. Maybe you feel that you'd like to come forward as an act to rededicate yourself wholly to the Lord. Maybe there's some stuff which you've kept back from him. Maybe the idea of walking with the Lord, walking faithfully with the Lord really struck you. And you'd like to ask his help to do that. You'd like to commit yourself to walking daily, moment by moment, with the Lord. Maybe he's reminded you of something that he asked you to do, a little project, and you haven't kept going with it. You thought it must be time to finish this project now. You remember Noah took 75 years or to build that ark. So maybe there's something like that you'd like to respond to. And finally, if you feel like you might be one of those people who was outside the ark because you've never really paid attention to the Lord and you've never accepted his offering to you, that's the flag, don't worry. You've never accepted his offering to you to take the whole lot of your sin away, his way out for you. That's to say, okay, Lord, I thank you for doing that, and I'm sorry for all the sin I've ever done in my life. And I want to be your follower. I do want to walk with you, Lord. You want to give yourself to him for the first time. So maybe if that's you as well, you'd like to come forward and ask us in prayer for that. And there's one little thing that has crossed my mind, and I'm only just going to mention it in case it crosses someone else's mind. But at the beginning of the service, I was walking up and down there, and that's where the baptistry is. And you know what? When you get baptized, you go under the water. You die to yourself, and then you come up in new life. It's a sign of allowing Jesus to take away all the rubbish from your life. You've already done it because you've already given yourself to the Lord, but it's a sign. So if that strikes any chord with you, please come and talk to me or Rob afterwards. So yeah, I would invite, if that is you, if any of those things are you want to rededicate yourself wholly to the Lord, you want to walk closer with the Lord, you want to ask him to help you and say sorry for not continuing with this project, or he's reminded you of a project, or if you've never accepted the Lord, if you've never given yourself to the Lord, any of those things or anything else, please come forward and can just sit at the front and we'll pray for you. And I feel like when we do that, we're doing something as an act. We're making a move to show God we're serious. That's the only reason. You can do it where you sit, but this way, you're telling God that you're serious about it. Okay, so just want to commit this all to the Lord. Father, we thank you. We just thank you. We thank you for your love. We thank you for everything that you have created and made in your love, Lord. We thank you that we can enjoy your creation. We thank you that we can walk in the knowledge that you love each one of us, that you love each one of us so much that you made a way for us to walk with you. Lord, that you gave up your life, your very life, so that we can walk with you. So, Father, we ask that you be with us now, Lord, as we respond to you in prayer.